we'll probably talk for about 25 to 30 minutes, and then we offer lunch. We got walking tacos today for those who are vegan or those who are not vegan, but all of the sides are vegetarian, so it's no vegan cheese or nothing like that. But hopefully y'all enjoy the talk and y'all enjoy the food, because this is an offering from me. That's my wife over there, Autumn.
And King.
So, we run a community. I don't like to call it a company. I don't like to call it a business. It's called White Rabbit Psychedelics. We've been operating since 2020, just helping people learn about psychedelics, and if they don't have access to psychedelics, we more or less play the middleman for people who are wanting this, because we look at psychedelics as not a drug, we look at it as food. We look at it as a nutrient. And so my change, my transformation to this day is a result of microdosing, not every day, 4 to 5 times out the week. I'm microdosing, and we really believe in small doses, big changes. Like, I didn't know how powerful psychedelics were until I wanted to go to Ann Arbor for some odd reason. So I'm in Ann Arbor, just walking downtown, never been, and I see this sign, says Arbor Shrooms. So I said, I take the email down, I emailed, and instead of trying to sell me some mushrooms, she said, we need a driver. Can you be our driver? I said, sure, I'll be your driver, but I didn't know, because I'm new to the city, I'm from Ohio. So my first job in Michigan is driving for Arbor Shrooms, and up until this time, I thought mushrooms was just to get high. I thought it was a drug like any other drug that I've taken thus far. But the crazy part about it was only people with a lot of money, because it was a cash business, and all she did was make money. You know, the lady who ran the company. It was a bunch of rich people buying psychedelics, and I didn't get it because I equated getting high with being poor, drugs. None of it read for me, because it's just what I thought it was about. But then I started to have the conversations with the people as to why they were taking psilocybin, and that's what red pilled me. That's where I was just like, okay, this is serious. It's a lady named Mary who hadn't left the house for years, hadn't left the house. She bought psilocybin. Her therapist said, Mary, we can't help you no more. Maybe you should try psilocybin. You know, and when I seen Mary the second time, she gave me the biggest hug, and it still resonates with me how happy she was to get out the house. She couldn't get out the house, and she went and got so much drugs and so many pills, still couldn't get out the house. And it was the psilocybin that said, man, I feel better. Maybe I can get out the house a little more. And it was also this one kid who really felt like his life was over, basically suicidal, completely disheveled. His last ditch effort was mushrooms. Yeah. That Monday come around, he basically a GQ model overnight. It was the craziest thing that I seen with my eyes. I seen people's life change in a space where, up until that point, I thought 2020 had happened. I thought we was just on this road off a cliff, and there was no saving us as a society. And I'm looking with my own eyes, people's lives changing. And so instead of what I did at that point, I just started absorbing all of the knowledge about psilocybin as I'm driving, delivering for Arbor Shrooms. And the science and the usage really didn't make sense. And so what I want to offer y'all today is from that point to now, some things that can help you in reference to psilocybin, microdosing, and changing your life in a space where it can. Because this is the reality. You buy psilocybin, you take psilocybin, maybe it makes your life better, maybe it doesn't. How would you know? So the real thing about it is being intentional. Intentions, we all have them, whether we know it or not, even if your intention is to do nothing at all. But how do you know what your intention is if you're not in tune with your intention in reference to taking psilocybin? Mary wanted to get out the house. I forget the young man's name, but he didn't want to die. Those were their intentions. It's called magic mushrooms. So when you just take mushrooms, it's hit or miss. It's just like anything else in life. But what I've noticed, this is the hard part. It's so easy, it's hard. When you sit and you write down and you journal what you want out of life, what you want out of yourself before, during, and after, now you're having a conversation with who? Yourself. That's what it's all about. See, the power of is called, one of the most popular mushroom strains is called golden teacher. And why they call it a golden teacher for the last 50 years or so, it's because it's teaching you in a space where nobody can teach you. Your reverend mom, doctor, the therapist, listen, Mary, I don't know what to do. You have to do the work now. And I've just created like a little anagram that I remind myself intentionally. Intention, journaling, integration. What is integration? The part that many people don't like about mushrooms, why people don't want to deal with it, why people call it a drug, is because you have to go through that process of integration. So I'm talking about microdosing this week, but the following week, I don't know if it's next week or the week after, I'm going to be talking about macrodosing. And with integration and macrodosing, which is larger doses, is much more intense. It's much more disturbing. The fact that you gotta integrate, which means to bring two things together and make them one. You gotta take your higher self and integrate it with this person you've been beating up for however long you've been living. It's like, oh no, you're actually much greater than that. You actually can go much higher than what you think you can, and that's what you got to integrate. And so what's painful about it is that the lower self, for lack of better words, don't want to go. You want to keep running shit, for lack of better words. And so the integration process, whether you microdosing or macrodosing, is hard. But if you journal, you will be able to realize that, so it's the before, middle, the middle is integration, and the after, you good as gold, baby. You, in the game, you feeling great. But if you don't monitor it, if you don't even take note, because say for instance, you microdose for a day, you have an integration experience, and you say, man, I don't like it, it wasn't good. But that next day, you feel great. But you have already written off the experience because you had microdosed 3 days ago. Yeah. You forgot. It's like a seed that germinated into a flower that you forgot that you planted that seed. So the reason why I like talking about it, the reason why I like bringing it to people's attention is because if you don't monitor it, there's no way to monitor it. So what am I pulling this from? I'm pulling it from Johns Hopkins and major scientific studies in reference to microdosing. How do they know it helps people? DASS 21. That's depression, anxiety, stress, and sadness. How do you know if you're struggling from it? You have no idea. You have no clue whether you're depressed. You have no clue whether you're anxious. You have no clue. I'm stressed the hell out. Stressed out. But I gotta perform for my boss. I gotta perform for my parents. I gotta perform for everybody around me. How do I feel? You have no clue. So when they did the studies, the way that they figured it out was they gave them this DASS form. And I'll give them to y'all so y'all can have them. And it's free online to download. But gave them this form. Each question either has a D, A, or S associated with it. You tally up those points and you just count. You just have a number of which number scale you're on before, during, and after. And I bet you money, not really, I'm just joking, that if you take it on a Monday, by that Wednesday, your score is either going to decrease, is going to decrease from the initial points. But if you're not monitoring it, this is how you're going to understand it. But if you don't monitor it, it's hard to understand the power of microdosing, because why? When you microdose, you're not supposed to feel anything. Not supposed to feel anything. And if you do microdose and you're high, as a kite, you took too much. You're not microdosing. A microdose means I can go to work, I can play with my kids, I can do everything I normally would do. But if you take a macrodose, you cannot do what you normally would do. And that's a problem too. So we can talk about that next week with macrodosing, the protocols for macrodosing, because a lot of times people don't know that either. But ultimately, we really want to integrate our higher selves. We really want to tap in and talk to our souls, or that part of us that's like, hey, I'm here with this knowledge for you, fam. Like, I'm here to help you. Now, how do I know that everybody has this within them? Because one time, I messed up. Well, I didn't mess up. It was a good thing. I took too much LSD, and I went inside my body. Cause I make music, so I was listening to my music, and first time I ever did LSD, and I just melted into myself. And I kept melting into myself and melting into myself, and I realized that it was a consciousness within me, and this consciousness told me everything is going to be okay. But don't forget what you have made it through, because you're going to be out of this situation and everything is going to be fine. And my girlfriend at the time, I snapped out about ran in the house. I'm like, baby, everything gonna be okay. and she looked at me like, I don't get it. And then, because I was still under whatever the LSD had me under, I could see all of the stress and I could feel and see that within her. And I was like, man, maybe everything's not going to be okay for you. Like, damn. But everything was going to be okay for me. And it actually manifested as that. And it was a weird experience to know. But ultimately, I say this all to say, you can't save nobody. Can't help nobody in a way where if God is within you, you have to find that. And as much as you're thinking and processing and going through life, if you're not listening and if you can't hear the same way I'm talking to you, it's somebody inside of you talking with the same diction and veracity, but do you hear it? And is it healthy? Is it inspiring you? Is it moving you to an opening, greater direction in your life? Because from that moment where basically was living in a shack, basically was working, I was a valet, so I was bringing home like $200 a week. It was crazy, because they pay you, they only pay you by tips as a valet. It was a dark time in my life, and I honestly know that through the power of psychedelics, it inspired me to inspire myself to continue to move forward and move with a sense of knowing.
Can I ask you a question? So
Please.
I'm sure you're I assume you'll get into this.
Mm.
What does it do to the brain that
Sure.
is causing this, right? And
Sure.
I'm gonna read up on this.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things, right, that help us to connect with self, like
Yeah.
yoga, meditation, all kinds of grounding practices. But I'm curious what the science says
Sure.
about what happens to the body
Sure.
that creates this connection with self.
Right. So we're talking about serotonin receptors that psilocybin activates and allows to process for us. So serotonin is basically happiness, the happiness hormone. And in most things, they don't do anything for serotonin. Like generally is blocked. Like if you ever been in a depressed or sad state and somebody came around you, like, come on, man, snap out of it, man. You can't. It ain't that bad, you know. Just come on. You got this, you got that. You've been here, you've been there. Right? Because serotonin is generally blocked. Now, when you have people who have real bad mental health ailments, that is generally the cause of the depression. That's generally the cause of the anxiety. So psilocybin scientifically is working with the serotonin receptors to allow that hormone to be normal. So you'll always reflect on a time before quote unquote trauma or quote unquote getting your heartbreak or grief or these particular moments that generally stop that serotonin. We're good, then boom, right? And now it's like you need something to help heal that. And now breathing, yoga, meditation, it's like this, right? So mycology, it works with plants, right? It helps the plants grow. It helps the plants be what they are. So all plants are associated with mycology to a certain degree. So when you talk about yoga, when you talk about meditation and these things, what I've noticed is that microdosing helps you be in it. So now when I'm meditating off of microdose, I'm meditating. When I'm doing the yoga, when I'm working out, I'm really in it. So once again, if I just take microdose and I'm just doing all of the stupid stuff that hurt me, we're not talking about that. We have to, I would never throw any of that out the water. I think that once you merge it with a healthy lifestyle, now you're going to unlock some things. But if we're smoking cigarettes and we're drinking and doing all of this type stuff, it's like you fooling yourself, you know. But
So you don't recommend microdosing with alcohol?
nah, no. Like, because when you think about psilocybin and alcohol, they're kind of like opposite
They
ends
counter
of the
each other,
spectrum.
Right. And with alcohol being a depressant too, it can counter the effects of the microdose, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, I don't really feel like at least wine is not a depressant for me.
Yeah. I would say,
Well, that's because of the properties, right, of wine.
wine is fruit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certain wines, rather. So there's a certain, we do the kosher wine with mushrooms that we have a good experience off of. It's called Shalom, which is just basically juice, you know. But there's so many different things you can do, like with tea. We've discovered microdosing with the tea because it works well with the herbs. That's like the benefits of the herbs intensify, you know. And what we do at White Rabbit Psychedelics, we have a lot of different botanicals that incorporate lion's mane, 5-HTP, L-theanine, and all of these things are incorporated as far as like botanicals, but the psychedelic is just like the super vitamin that helps everything get through. And another supplement that you can utilize with psychedelics is niacin. Niacin, small amounts of niacin. You would have to buy the supplement because you have to eat like 100 steaks or something crazy to get just a little bit of niacin, to whereas it goes beyond your blood-brain barrier. So another thing that's taking place is neurogenesis, where your genes are becoming new again. So what they've studied in depressed people is that their synapses are disconnected at a mass level. So this is why when you have depressed family members and you just feel powerless and hopeless, even within yourself, a process of, this is studied, lion's mane, psilocybin, niacin, as a microdose stack becomes that of a neurogenesis, so you can heal those synapses from child trauma, from PTSD. You know, like I said, I was jailed at 19. I was a baby. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know the scope of my actions, and you know, they say, you know, your prefrontal cortex wasn't even developed yet, but I still had to be in prison with grown men that were criminals. So it's very traumatic, and even getting out of that situation, I still you feel off balance for a lot of different reasons, and I'm getting my footing back because I'm taking this so seriously. I'm taking my mental health seriously, and I'm understanding the chemical concoctions and combinations that are studied and also tested. So I would say, if you are going to microdose, make sure you monitor what's going on inside of you. Make sure you're writing and understanding the power of you. And then what do you want out of life? Like my friend over here, he just asked me, where do I see myself in 5 years? These are good microdosing questions to ask yourself, because what you'll also notice is that the answers are within you as well, not to be so metaphysical. A resource that I like, if you guys have Substack, it's like a app where a lot of writers, it's a Substack called the Microdose. It's a good resource. If you guys have never read any books on this subject, some good authors, Paul Stamets, Terrence McKenna, he has a great book called Food of the Gods, must read. And then also The Sanctuary. The Sanctuary is a good resource for community. Like I said, we're trying to host more events, more people, whether you're creative, whether you speak, sing, dance. We just want you to share your gifts and hopefully get you an audience. We're trying to do this every week. So if you know anybody that might want to offer a lunch or offer a speaking engagement, even if it's the supervisor at your job, we don't care. As long as they know our mission, which is to really understand yourself at a deep level and using these sacraments to understand yourself, and not just to get high and space out and be like, oh man, I was blown, man. Like, that is not what we're here for. We are a spiritual healing space, and because we have helped ourselves and we've helped so many people come in and out these doors, really seeking help, really seeking guidance. And honestly, we would be liars and say we are the ones that are helping people. It's the sacrament, and it is not to be abused. It's not to be, so you could get 1/8 of mushrooms and microdose, and it can last you for a month and a half. Please.
So the lion's mane, that's for the receptors.
The lion's mane is to heal the neurogenesis. The niacin is to allow the psilocybin and the lion's mane to go beyond the blood-brain barrier.
So like, it feels in that pathway, so everything can connect in the brain.
Everything can connect in the brain. So on our site, we have and you can get all of these things independently. I'm just saying, on our site, we have a product called Stem and Stack, and that's been our #1 product always. We've been running for 4 years. It's always been our #1 product. It's always been a thing that people use for that particular point. And honestly, it's amazing because they don't really get a second dosage. That's the thing about it. That's the thing about psilocybin. If you heal, you heal. You don't gotta keep healing yourself.
So do it produce dopamine?
So I wouldn't necessarily say it produces dopamine. It depends on what you do. So say for instance, if you are microdosing or macrodosing and you are doing a thing that allows you to feel good. You're doing a thing that frees you to feel that dopamine, but the microdosing within itself, the psilocybin within itself, honestly, is very anxiety inducing. That's why I say it's good to have a therapeutic approach to it versus just let me take it and try and see what happens.
So y'all supply it, y'all have the mushroom, you got lion's mane?
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I didn't wanna, when I go to the stores, I don't wanna buy it like, I don't know about the powder. You know how they be having it already grounded up and
Yeah. You want to get the lion's mane. Well, if you ever been to Western Market and on Woodward, it's like in Royal Oak. Western Market always got lion's mane. Western Market, and then a dehydrator that costs like $30 on Amazon. Chop it thin in slices. Throw it in that evaporator for about, few hours. It's gonna get real dry. Get you a grinder. You can get a grinder for $20. If you serious about microdosing, it's cool to like buy stuff from people, but it's better to do this shit on your own. So basically, you gonna cut it up, you gonna grind it up, and that's your lion's mane powder. Right there, you ain't gotta worry about nothing else.
I like the tea versus
The tea is great, and L-theanine. If you don't want to take tea, L-theanine is basically like 1,000 tea bags in a little bitty powder. So, yeah. Do your research on L-theanine. If you got ADHD, if you got a hard time concentrating, ADHD, like you feel it, you see it, you sense it. Research L-theanine because that is something that's going to help you have. It's probably one of the best things that I discovered this year. Really. Go ahead.
So, how did you get so smart? What? You like a university or something?
No, I'm self-taught.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm self-taught.
Autodidacts.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually the type of person that ever since like I got out of prison when I was 23, and for my free time, I would go to the library. And I'll be the only grown man at the library. It'd be me and a bunch of kids or whatever. I really wanted to learn and I really wanted to know. And so I didn't know shit at a particular time. There was a point in time where I didn't know anything and that bothered me. So, and I would see other people that knew, and then I would know, and then I would say, okay, I know stuff, but then my emotions would get in the way. I would fall in love, and that would throw me off too. So then I had to become emotionally intelligent, Daniel Goleman, right? So you gotta understand the many bodies that you have, and part of microdosing is understanding the many parts of you. So like I said, it's a part in you that's a genius, that knows everything, that's been in many lifetimes, that can talk to you right now. But what are you going to do to talk to that part? which psilocybin and ritual is another aspect to unlocking that knowledge within yourself as well. Because ritual for me is something that I was also self-taught. Like I didn't know what I was doing, and then I started reading the OTO and the Aleister Crowley. Like, oh, I do this shit just naturally. So.
Oh, you're familiar with that stuff as well?
Oh yeah, that's what.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So.
what's the OTO?
OTO is like a secret society that Aleister Crowley created, and they did a bunch of rituals. But part of the ritual process is psychedelics, because when you, so say for instance I'm doing all of this and I'm moving in a circle. If I'm conscious, then I'm just a crazy person. But I tell you what, you take some mushrooms. You start doing this, and you start going into circles, you gonna start opening stuff up. It start making sense to you. You know, it started to be like, oh, okay, that's why they was doing that. See, now you on the outside looking in, you like, man, that man over there crazy.
But it's funny you say that because that means you familiar with Madame Blavatsky too.
Of course, yeah.
She was doing that stuff as well together around that same time period. And she talked about that as well, about all the different enhancements, and she even tried to switch on Jesus and say he was talking about doing mushrooms and shit. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah, John Allegro.
Yeah.
He basically posits that psychedelic mushrooms or psilocybin is Jesus.
Yeah, yes, this man knows. And they came way back to South America and did what you're doing now in
And
South
it's
America.
not that it's Jesus, it's that it helps us to connect with self and
The
connect
Christ
with
consciousness.
ourselves.
Exactly.
We are God.
We are God.
Yeah.
Nature is God. We are interconnected.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so I have a quick question.
Sure.
Does the lion, so does the microdosing also do the do the cell regeneration?
Not
or is that only the
specifically.
lion's mane?
Not specifically. What George Stamets he did the research and he came up with that formula. So there's no specific studies that I can find that specifically say that psilocybin alone.
But the combination.
But the
of three.
combination has been scientifically.
So do we know that lion's mane is directly connected to cell regeneration?
We know that lion's mane is connected to cell generation. But
Only in connection to these two things.
no. Cell regeneration in reference to different cells, like lion's mane can be good for skin health by itself, right? But then when you talk about psilocybin and niacin, now you're talking about the brain barrier. So most medicine that you take, so even lion's mane, is not going to go beyond the blood-brain barrier. So it's already regenerating cells, just not the cells past the blood-brain barrier,
Okay.
which niacin allows you to go beyond.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, so can you briefly talk about when we go beyond, what happens when we go beyond the brain cell barrier? Like, why is this so critical?
Right, because ultimately, that's like, say for instance, I take aspirin, which is toxic.
Yeah.
Right, it's gonna mess up your brain. Your brain is like very sensitive into what is even going to allow. So most food, so you will see. Say for
You're
instance,
you're talking about, okay, I understand. See, I gotta make it make sense.
Sure, please.
So what you're saying is that the brain will only take in so much of this aspirin because of its ability to harm the body.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
So with this combination, the brain doesn't have a max point. It just, whatever happens is what happens.
Right, but the thing of it though is that niacin is very uncomfortable. So say for instance, I'm saying, all right, I'm about to heal my brain for real. I'm about to take a whole bunch of niacin. No, you're going to feel worse than you ever felt. So niacin is like, it's called the niacin flush, right? So you gotta be careful with niacin. You can't overuse it, which it allows it to not be abused. It allows it to not, you can't have so much lion's mane go beyond the blood barrier. You can't have so much psilocybin and niacin. It literally safeguards, because if you took one niacin pill for the first time and you didn't eat, you would have thought you took something dangerous because you think you never experienced it before, but it's actually natural. It's not going to harm you, but it's just like, it just feels natural that you can't take a lot of it, if that makes sense. It's like,
Yeah, well, the niacin,
huh? I don't admire anything about them. I just have I'm an observer.
There you go,
Yeah.
yeah, when I've taken too much niacin, I think niacin is infused in my high potency vitamin C.
Mm-hmm.
And if I take even one too many pills,
Mm-hmm.
right, I will throw up.
Yeah,
My body
exactly.
is like, this is not gonna work for us.
Yeah.
But if it's in the right small dose,
Feels great.
right. So thank you for breaking this down, because I think a lot of people don't really understand microdosing. I was just out with a friend who was microdosing, and we were out drinking.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't microdosing,
Yeah.
she was.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any judgment about it, so I'm thinking this is the norm, right? Like, oh, you can microdose and you can do it.
Yeah.
And as I'm sitting here, of course, that shouldn't be combined
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing it for the purposes of enlightenment.
Exactly. And you are not trying to develop a habit. So the thing that we know about alcohol is habit forming, habit inducing. Psilocybin, lion's mane, niacin, I've always had a lot of mushrooms. I never thought like, man, I got all these mushrooms, I'm about to go crazy tonight. It's like, no, it's like, there's a certain level of mushrooms that you take and you're just like, man, I don't even want to. It's been so long since I've taken a lot of mushrooms, because I gotta be really mentally prepared to do some, what I like to call shadow work, like really embrace that dark side that I'm not really prepared for, and I don't want to do that all the time. So just that within itself is not a drug, it's not a habit for me. But yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I appreciate all of y'all questions, and it don't have to necessarily be over. Like I said, we got walking tacos and we want to feed y'all. But if y'all have any questions, any personal questions, like y'all want to come up to me, y'all can ask. I'll be down here because I want to eat too. But I will hope that y'all can fill out, either got a paper survey or I got an online survey. Can you scan that QR code, fill it out for me? So I'll be reading those, and I'll be taking the information that y'all give me, moving forward.
Okay.
Can I ask just one quick final question?
Sure.
This perfect combination between like the dose for the lion's mane, the dose for the I'm so sorry,
Psilocybin.
psilocybin, and then for the niacin. What is the formula?
Oh,
The recommended formula.
Oh, so it's like 15 milligrams of niacin, which is like very little, and then 20. Well, probably it depends on your capsule size. So
Okay.
we use 250 milligram capsules. So our smallest percentage is going to be niacin, and then we do 50 lion's mane, and then 50. So it's equal parts lion's mane, equal parts psilocybin, and then 10% niacin. But it depends on your capsule size, so I can't be specific with that.
Okay, got it. But if it was a 250, it would be 250 lion's mane, 15 for the
Yeah, so
niacin.
we go 25, 25, and 15.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And yep. And I'm giving y'all a DASS form, so if y'all do want to microdose, y'all will be able to keep track.